got you if you fall.
All right, I'm Robert Ragsac. I represent, I guess I hope for all of you, our Filipino-American generation. That means we were the firstborn of the immigrant Filipinos that came to Santa Clara Valley. We settled in what we called the ranch area, where they all were. Most of them were laborers. We had a Filipino town because of the relationship between the Chinese who were here. Guess where the Filipinos in the 1920s and 30s were shot? In Chinatown. And so as that grew up, they settled and bought property and owned businesses around 60. Our generation is sometimes called the Vanishing generation because all of the first-rate Filipinos who settled in 1930s have all disappeared. Our generation, who was born in the 20s or 30s, are also vanishing. They call us the vanishing generation, or if you heard the term bridge generation. So you know what bridge generation is? No? Because the Filipinos who came here, remember, when they came here, they were in their teens, and they carried with them their culture. And we grew up in that culture, but going to school in white areas, right? So we got one foot with our Ilocano, Visaya, Bicolano, Tagalog generation, right? And the other in the American. And that's a bridge. Right? That bridge is disappearing now. And so what we've taken up as our effort is to keep alive the memory of those first-rate Filipinos. And so, with the help of some of my friends, my sister Elaine, my sister Elaine, her husband Rudy, Lakay Rudy. One of the rarest guys ever who lived here in that generation, Carlos Arevelo.
Hey!
And you see, oh, Pinky, you showed up.
Man, I couldn't find a parking.
Pinky, come on, get up here. This is Eugene Pinky Reintar, who also lived on 6th Street, right? Our generation.
I'm the core of the Filipino town.
Yeah.
76 years.
Okay, we'll get to that story. All right, and my cousins, who were just a little bit later generation, Roy and his sister are Effie. Right here. Okay, come on. Effie's name is Eugene because our grandmother is Eugenia, nicknamed Effie. We are all of the Ragsac family. The Ragsacs are from Barrio Cañada, Santa Catalina, Ilocos. So we are FBI. Full-blooded Ilocano. All right. The other term is GI, genuine Ilocano. All right. That brings me to another point. What are the heritages we have here? If any one of you have a parent that's from the Philippines, what are they? Let me hear.
The pole, which is now San Juan, the Luxor.
Let's go to my father's town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lapong. Okay, what else? Bico.
Bico. Starts to God.
Bicolano.
Yes, Bicolan.
Yeah. Hey, Bicolano. Anywhere else?
Parents are from Shawan and Barawan in Leyte.
Leyte. All right.
My dad's from Cebu.
Cebu. Cebuano. Bisaya.
Yeah.
From Cebu? Bisaya?
Bisaya.
The language of Bisaya?
So my dad is from San Juan, Ilocos, and then he met my mom in the war, and she was from Darwin, right near Dumaguete,
All
in
right.
the Visayas region.
Anyone else?
It's from Ilocos Norte, Bana. And Lawag, my mom.
Lawag. Okay. What else? Anyone else? right. The point of all that is, this is where one of my missions. If you have a parent that's from the Philippines, or even if they came here and born here, if their parents are not here, get their story. All right? I've used this when I talk to the City College San Francisco, San Jose State, Stanford, and the Fine Museum. The mission is remember your parents and their story. Because I have one regret. I didn't get my mom's story. I did get my dad. And I didn't get my mom's story, and she's from La Paz. And it's very hard for me to say that because that's why I want you all to get your stories together. Okay, now, let's see, did I get everything?
Yes, you
Yes.
But you go. Can I just say one thing?
Oh, she wants to say one thing.
One thing. You are
That's
now
enough.
meeting the silent generation. We are the forgotten generation. So you guys, make sure you talk to your parents about what life was like. You want to know it, because we had the chance to, at least like Robert said, interview a lot of our parents. We don't have all that information, but you guys have the chance to get that written down for your children's children. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments? And then I'll go to another.
Matthew's here.
Huh?
Matthew's here.
Matthew.
We found the parking.
Well, welcome Pinoy time.
Pinoy time.
Okay, Matthew is the my contact for this event, and Matthew represents
Puso.
Puso. Okay. Oh wait, that brought it right. What are the organizations that are here? I know I got funds. Fond Santa Valley. Puso.
Anak Bayan sa
Ooh,
Nagkatali.
Anak Bayan. Okay, so we got 3.
You could also consider, we also, within Puso, we have like a core of folks who are working for Filipino classes. We like to refer to ourselves as the Filipino Classes Committee. They'll get the visuals.
Okay, I got this right. Puso, P-U-S-O. Filipino Unified, or Unified Student
Unity.
Unity, P-U-S-O, Filipino Unity Student Organization. In Tagalog, P-U-S-O is heart. Okay?
Good. Good choice.
It's not unique because there's a school that also has a Puso.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Anybody have any questions with Roy? Effie. Effie. Now, the 30s?
40, no, I was born 47, so.
40s? Okay, this was an area that was a boarding house for the Filipinos.
No, it's down there,
Oh.
but we don't have to walk that far.
Yeah,
What do you
we-
call that museum thing?
Oh, which is that? Oh,
They
it
live
no
across
longer
the
exists,
street.
that's right.
It's across the street from
Yeah, it doesn't
next to
exist.
the print shop is right there. You can
Okay.
see the front.
Yeah, well, to save us a little more walking, about 3 blocks or 4 doors down was a boarding house. And it housed a lot of the itinerant workers, one of which,
With my daddy.
okay, one of which is Effie and Roy's father. Now, do you want me to give the story, or are you going to give the story?
I'll do this.
Okay.
Listening to that man. About a third from the back is a picture of a handsome young Filipino man, and it's my daddy. Let me show you what page it is.
She don't look Filipino, does she?
Okay, this picture in your book, about a third from the back, is Leoncio Ragsac.
Leoncio.
And he was the oldest of the 3 brothers. His mama was named Euphemia. That's my name, so I have that honor. About 4 doors down here. Actually, the Japanese museum here. My brother and I were driving around looking for parking, and I kept looking, because my grandmother's house is up here about 4 doors next to the print shop.
I think that museum you're talking about It was a Filipino church at one time too.
It was
Or was it
Dr.
next door? I remember there
Ishikawa's
was a
house.
Filipino church.
It was Dr. Ishikawa's house.
Was the Filipino church?
I don't know because I was gone for 50 years and just came back last
You see,
year.
the Filipino church used to be on 6th Street, and then they moved it over there.
Wow.
Where the museum is.
Yeah.
And then they moved to 13th Street, 13th and Jackson. Right
Right.
across the
But
street.
anyway, there's the print shop, then where my mother, Margaret Teresa Peluso, grew up. She was Italian, Irish, German, French, and all that other stuff. And then the next building this way, about 4 doors up there, was a big boarding house, a rooming house. And so my grandfather, Michael Peluso, who's very Italian, did not like the idea of that little Filipino man coming over to visit my mother, who had green eyes, fair skin, and black hair. The way the story goes is that my grandmother, Catherine, the Irish woman, held the window open while my mother went out the window and my father eloped. With the Italian grandfather sitting with a shotgun on the front step. Now, at that time, no one here would marry them. That was considered an interracial marriage, a Filipino man and this green-eyed beauty. So they drove with Auntie Claudia and
My stepmother.
Uncle Sharkey to Washington State to be married. And I don't know anything more that I would like to talk about in that story, except that when I was in grade school, I didn't have grandparents because my grandfather did not want that Filipino man and the children to come there. Later, when I was high school age, and he had grown old and slowed down, then I drove my Chevy Impala over here with my mom, and we came and visited my Irish grandmother. But I think it's an important thing to understand that kind of heritage. And today, when you go to the student union and you're talking up those blonde, blue-eyed girls, and when we have our family reunion, we have members of our family that are from all walks of life and all kinds of denominations and all kinds of backgrounds. And I think that's the beauty of where we come. And it's been about 50 or 60 years in the coming.
And they're all related to the Ragsacs.
And by the way, when I lived overseas in Europe and I said my family name is Ragsac, they said to me, your name means happiness? And it does.
One thing though, my grandfather, he loved me.
He loved He didn't know what.
By the way, Inky's right there. If you go 2 doors down from the Japanese Museum, there is a very elaborate church. That was the Filipino Full Gospel Mission.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still, the
There's
building
a-
is still there.
a building next to the museum.
Yeah,
But
if
I
you-
know there was a Filipino
Yeah.
church there. I used to go.
Oh, that's good. That's great.
Every time I sinned, I used to go.
Okay, we're gonna go over here.
It's funny because they just got recruited.
Okay, this was the site of the Arevelo family. And that's what you see here. But the picture was taken facing across the street. And the two colonists in the middle there at the time. And I think, well, he got a medical issue, and I don't want to stress him. Well, we all have. Well, for all the students who are in our 80s, we have a little aches and pains. But across the street is Roy's Market.
Okay, but
Roy's Market, which was owned by the Fukamuras.
Yes.
And all I remember about the market was the Fukamura girl, Elaine.
Of course.
I don't know why, but she was really pretty. And a lot of us, even the Arevelo boys, we look across the street looking for Elaine. But what was neat about that, we all went to school together anyway. So, in fact, that's another point that I'd like to make. Because a lot of us lived in this area, there were a lot of Issei and Isseis, first and second generation Japanese here. So we intermingled. So a lot of our friends were Issei. After they came back to camp, and they came back, they called it camp, by the way. That's the internment camp. 1945, I think it was about 1946, they started returning back to San Jose. And that big story is in Kurt and Ralph's book. Carlos, you made it. All right. You want to tell them about your house?
Oh yeah, my house, that's the exact number or the address of my house was here. There used to be two houses here. One was a one-story house, which my family occupied. Next door was a two-story building. Next door was a two-story building, and that was it was occupied by Dr. Kawamura, who was a dentist. He used the office to live in. I mean, he had an office, and he also had his family live there. And our house was right around here. What happened was the Gran Oriente Filipino decided that they wanted to buy this property. So what happened is that they bought the property, talked to my dad, mom, they established a restaurant, the bottom part. It was the basement, they converted it to a restaurant. So my folks, my family, right next door to the restaurant.
What was the name of the restaurant?
Traveler's Cafe. Yeah.
Here's a note. I worked there as a waitress and got fired the next day because I was serving the wrong things to the guys at San Jose State.
You're good, Gran Oriente.
Yeah. Yeah, well, one day when I was in that restaurant, I was only about 9 or 10 years old, and the waitress dropped some plates on the floor, and I proceeded to repeat my mom's words, and it was pretty bad. She said, "Don't you know what you're saying?" I said, "No." It was swear words. So, yeah, she used to do that before she spanked me. Yeah. So anyhow, the Gran Oriente bought the property, and then they told my dad he could move the house. So he had the house moved over to Coleman Avenue in Hetty. That's where our house went. Different families were over here, like the Fukamura family was there. They had, some man had the Cook's Hardware store one time.
That was a store.
Yeah, Fukamura's Fish Market. Right.
Yeah.
That's a family, 3 girls and 2 boys, parents. Across the street, that was the tofu facility. I used to go to school with the guy that probably still owns it now.
And the restaurant.
He's probably retired.
I don't know, maybe his son runs it. Yeah. And over here, we had Ishikawa's clothing store. Beyond that was Pet Fukuda's barbershop. And beyond that was Tokunaga's, Lincoln Tokunaga's drugstore.
On the corner.
Yeah. And then across the street was called Tom and Mary's snack shop over the Gombe. And it was like a family of 6 kids. And Roy Station, he and his brother Mike owned that corner. And they had a garage, mechanics garage, and a gas station there.
Yeah, look at this picture. You're standing right here, looking that way, in 1920s. That's Carlos's older brother, Izzy.
Yeah.
And you could see the wooden buildings that would have been the view that you see that going this way.
They tore them down and built that building. And over there, the corner, where the pool room used to be.
Like Takeda's pool hall.
Takeda's and Clark was the mayor of Japantown at that time. Yeah, just
Good times there, huh, Robert?
Gran Oriente.
We had a bunch of Japanese owned businesses over there, Dobashis, and Hayashi, something owned the other drugstore across the street there from Lincoln Copenhagen's drugstore. I think his name was Hashimoto. And then Takeda owned the creamery, right? And across the street was an old-time shoemaker at one time.
Harada.
Yeah. And further down, there's the Kagura.
Yeah, we'll walk by that.
Yeah.
Let's go
Okay.
over here to the Grand Oriente.
Okay.
Yeah, we show the Grand Oriente.
Huh?
The Grand Oriente building.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go down there.
And there's no one there. And I like barely didn't stop.
Well, you know, he was the Grand Master of the Filipino Masonic Lodge that covered the coast, the West Coast, all the way up to Oregon, Washington, and so forth. And at one time, they had like 1,500 members. So yeah, it was his idea to build this building and then have the tenants pay for the mortgage.
What was Rusty's last name?
That was it, Rusty. Severino,
Severino.
T. Rusty.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, he's a brilliant man.
Do they still own the property? The Grand Oriente?
Masonic Lodge owns it, yeah.
Now?
No,
No.
the remaining members sold it.
Okay, that's also in your book. You can see this picture, and then you can take a look at the actual bench right here. And there's a neat inscription there done by Kurt.
Thank you.
That could be Johnny's son. Tak Tokuda.
Tech? Yeah, well, okay, are there any questions about the Grand Oriente? It's one of the two active fraternal Filipino organizations here in Pinoytown. The other is Dimasalang, and we'll talk about that when we get on to 6th Street. Okay. Any questions?
Well, this corner here, you were here long. Remember this used to be the cellar, the Chinese. This is where all the Filipinos used to hold their parties. You know, after a meeting or someone had a birthday, it was right on this corner, and there was a
basement.
rest. Yeah, you go down the basement. But it was nothing but Filipinos you see in there because, you know, that's where they used to have their parties. You know, the organizations, their clubs, birthdays, because there was no other Chinese restaurants that did that. But now you could do it all over the place. But it was right on this corner when I was a kid. I think I had my first birthday, 1945, right there.
Tiki, we're going to have a great story from Tiki all the way down 6th Street. All right, so let's keep moving because we're going to...
It'll last you. We have a 12-hour tour. When you guys had
I know they used to get Kentucky could be, but they used to get drunk from one can of beer.
That's right.